got a bigger audience than it looks like. And I don't know because I don't think that microphone's working. I want to welcome you all. Glad you took a rainy evening to come and find out about the candidates. I want to mention that the partner for this evening is the Chamber of Commerce of the Mid-Ohio Valley. I was going to introduce Jill Parsons, but I think she's still outside. There she is, way in the back. Thank you, Jill. But we commend all of you for taking your time out and the candidates for being willing to come and talk to the voters. Our purpose here is simple. We just want to give people a chance to get to know you so when they go to vote, they have a face to attach to the names on the ballot and have heard a little bit about why you're running or what you want to do if you get elected. There are 15 people running to represent Wood County in either the House or the State Senate. 13 of them are here, which is a really wonderful turnout. Because there are so many of them, we're not going to do our usual format of lining them up and asking them a question for all of them to answer, because nobody wants to listen to 13 people answer the same question. And it's not fair if you ask one person this question and somebody else a different one. So we're giving them each 4 minutes. We know we have some people that might have trouble with that, but we're sticking to our 4 minutes so we get around to everybody. I'm looking at the lawyers in the front row. It should take us about an hour to get through all of the candidates, and then we encourage you to hang around afterwards out in the lobby. If there's somebody you want to talk to about something in particular, that's the place to catch them. We will give them a hand when they've all spoken, but I would appreciate it, we would all appreciate it, if we didn't spend time clapping after each speaker or making any other kinds of demonstrations. My thought is you have the ultimate expression. You get that on May 8th or early voting when you mark your ballot, and that's when you tell the candidates whether you approved of them or disapproved of them. Starting with the state senate, there is one candidate running on the Republican ticket. That's Mike Azinger. He was not able to be here because of a family commitment. He had planned to come and then it got rescheduled. There are 2 Democrats running and they are both here. And we'll invite Simon Hargis to be the first. If you go there, I'm going to turn the microphone on, so you should be ready to go. Oh, I'm supposed to tell you for the timekeepers, he's got 4 minutes. At 30 seconds left, they will hold up a yellow card, and when 4 minutes are up, they will hold up a red one, and you can finish your sentence.
Can't finish my sentence. Sounds good. Hi, everybody. I am Simon Hargis. I'm running for State Senate District 3. I'm running to put community over politics. I'd like to do a quick point of clarification. The spelling of my name tonight on my name card and on the list, slightly off. It's the historical spelling, going back 3 generations. 3 generations ago, Hargis family was from North Carolina, a pretty dastardly crew. My great-grandfather got arrested for bootlegging, and to clear the good family name, when he got out, he changed it to H-A-R-G-U-S. So don't associate me with those H-A-R-G-I-S's, please. We're clear now, we're clean, so H-A-R-G-U-S. So a little bit about me. I grew up here. I went to Vienna, then Jackson, then PHS, went over to OU to stay close to home, came back with a doctorate in physical therapy. My trade's physical therapy. My family business is physical therapy. I was a physical therapist, went to night school to get my MBA, and I have an MBA in healthcare administration. And in that time I also got married, and I have a 2.5-year-old. About 4.5 years ago, I took over my family's business, which is First Settlement Physical Therapy. And at that time, we had about 60 employees. Now we have about 130. And I always say that to make a point of where my politics comes from. In that period of time, that's 60-odd people we hired. I didn't hire any of them because I got a tax break. I didn't hire any of them because of some deregulation. I hired them because our high schools and our community colleges and our universities were graduating people that had skills I could use. I was willing to have a safe, clean work environment that paid a living wage. And this was a community that I grew up in and that the people I hired wanted to live in, wanted to be here, wanted to raise a family here. And when you hire somebody new, especially when they're not from this area, the first thing they say isn't about all these in-the-weeds economic issues or politics issues. It's what are the schools like? You know, is it clean? Is it safe? Can I raise a family here? And that's really my perspective into coming into this race. So the theme of my race is community first. To put aside the division and a lot of the talking points, to get back to the basics and the foundation of our community. How do we support it? How do we bolster it? And if we do that, this is going to be a place we can build on top of and grow. Now, to me, coming at this from a democratic perspective, that's how I was raised and that are my values, you know, I believe in certain foundations of the community. A lot of it has to do with the median wages and how different ways to bring that up. But I think the linchpin of a community is its schools. That's going to be my priority, that education funding, that fully funding of PEIA. That's always going to be my top priority. But just like running my business, you come in with your quarterly goals and you're balancing your budget with the expansion of your business. You're going to come in day to day with a lot of fires and putting those out, hearing issues from the people on a day-to-day level, dealing with those issues. My overarching priorities are going to be priority number one is schools, because I believe it's the linchpin of this community. But what else can we do in this community to make it a safer, cleaner place, a place where people want to grow and live, addressing the opioid crisis, but in this particular community, especially as I've learned recently, it's more of a drug crisis. In fact, in Wood County, we have more of a heroin problem right now, according to the police that I've talked to, than even an opioid problem. My background's healthcare. I'm eager to figure out that issue. You know, it's always going to be how we can bring jobs to the area, but we need to do it in a way that bolsters the community, where those outside companies are coming in and hiring West Virginians and respecting our environment. So my name's Simon Hargis. I plan on putting aside politics and putting community over politics. I appreciate your support in the primary. I'm a Democrat and I'm running for State Senate District 3. Thanks you very much.
Thank you. I told you not to quiet until we're all finished. I always get at least one name misspelled. So first speaker, first misspelling, I hope that was the only one. The other Democratic candidate running for the 3rd District, which by the way includes Wirt County, make sure I get the right counties, Pleasant County, Wirt County, and part of Rome County, and all of Wood County are District 3. The other candidate is Jim Leach.
Thanks, Ken. I'm going to start my own timer, too.
Ready?
Good. I'll wait once, so it's 15 minutes. All right, we'll see. All right, my name's Jim Leach, and we've been on the stump for a little bit now. Thinking about, Simon gave me a shout out the other night in Roane County when we were talking about Spencer, about the fact that he and I communicate. We are both about very similar values, and we are both going to support whoever comes out on top in this Democratic primary to take this seat back for the Democrats in the 3rd in November. So a couple of things that I want to talk about tonight. A little bit about who I am. I spent a lifetime in service. I mean, I started 12 years old in Wood County as a paper boy with little blue tickets that you hand out and collect and all those kinds of things. I went on to work at Shoney's, I worked at the bank, I worked my way through college. As I was thinking about the speech tonight, I realized I've been in the service industry, in the service business for all my life. As a lawyer, I spent 8 years first with my wife and I. We had 3 children when we packed up, went to Morgantown, and I went back to law school. And that's always been a passion of my life since I was in 9th grade. I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to be a lawyer because I kind of grew up tough. I grew up, we went on, the other day, we went on this cleanup for Earth Day. And Morgan and I were cleaning up, and we're cleaning up around Avery Street and Spring Street. And I say, Morgan, I live there, and I live there. And this is some of the tough, I lost some teeth here. That's kind of the way it was when I grew up. So in 9th grade, I decided, I can do something about this, and I have a lot of passion about justice for people. I feel like that I spent my career seeking justice first as a prosecutor, and then I ran for prosecutor in 2000. And as Harry's joke goes, the community decided I was better off in private practice, so off I went. So thanks for the joke, Harry. But so as we approached this campaign, my son Morgan ran for the House of Delegates in 2016, improved his position throughout the campaign, and he's back again. And so he's inspired me some of this. And so when we're talking about the Senate race, I was like, so what do I have to bring? And there's 2 real, and I appreciate what Simon says about community and what we want to do, but My theme is a little more, let's grow mountaineers. And what that's about is probably the first time since World War II, West Virginia has some economic opportunity that is different than coal. And it's in the form not just in our energy resource and natural gas, but also in this cannabis play that we have. And so I said, well, what are my qualifications for that? For some reason, I got this idea to go back to law school in 2014-15 when Morgan was in his second year of law school. I went back as a full-time law student, and I got my master's in energy law. Of course, I knew about the shale play then, and that was a part of what informed my thinking. And so I learned everything from energy regulation, which is what's going on specifically with Pleasant's Power Station right now, all the way to, my capstone was on hydraulic fracturing. We learned hazardous waste law, water law, I took all these classes, environmental law. This is the play that's facing West Virginia right now. The other side of the coin is the cannabis opportunity that we have, and that's not just recreational marijuana. That I think is a bit down the road for West Virginians. Medical cannabis and industrial hemp, though, are real opportunities right now for us. And so Morgan started this, and he got me involved, and I was the second ever issued permit in the state of West Virginia under federal law to cultivate industrial hemp. I'll be cultivating about 30 acres this year, and we're really working for that opportunity for West Virginia. So those are my two areas that I think bring this economic play to West Virginia. If we can do that, if we can accomplish this economic opportunity that we have for West Virginia, then PEIA, teachers' pay raises, but not just education. All West Virginians need help right now. It's not a limited group. So my objective, let's grow mountaineers. It has a lot to do for benefiting all West Virginians. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we're going to hear from the candidates for House of Delegates, District 8. That district is entirely within Wood County and elects one delegate. The two candidates are Republican Bill Anderson and Democrat David Bland. Both are running unopposed. I didn't mention before, yes, we invited candidates who are unopposed in the primary because we want you to get to know all the candidates. They're going to be on the ballot in November, and the more you see them, the more you hear from them, the better decision you'll be ready to make by then. So we'll ask Mr. Anderson, the Republican candidate for District 8, to be next.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. I have come to these in the past. For those of you that haven't read my bio in the paper, I am a retired teacher from Williamstown High School, where I taught for 39 years. Within the community, I serve on the session of the Presbyterian Church. I'm a first vice commander of the American Legion Post in Williamstown, and I'm a graduate of Marshall University and West Virginia University, so I guess in the state of West Virginia I'm educationally and politically correct. My bachelor's is from Marshall and my master's from WVU. Things I want to mention tonight in my 4 minutes is the budget was a little bit easier this year. I've served on a number of years on the Finance Committee, and the budget was excruciatingly painful the previous 2 years. We're not out of the woods, but things improved this year, and I'm very thankful for that. Hard decisions had to be made, and we're making progress. Historically, West Virginia goes into a recession after the nation, and we come out after the nation emerges. And so we're following what I perceive as a traditional traditional situation. Within the legislature, I think I chair the Committee on Energy. And there were 3 major pieces of legislation that the Energy Committee and the House of Delegates and the legislature passed this year. I wanted to briefly touch on those. First, we passed transparency legislation requiring more information to be put on royalty owners' statements that they get from the energy producing companies about any deductions and information production that has to be recorded. The biggest bill of the session that got the most attention, I believe, was the passage of the Co-Tenancy and Majority Protection Act, and there's a lot of misinformation on this particular issue. This deals with only a single piece of property where you have multiple owners, and applies, you have to have more than 7 owners in that piece of property. And what it simply says is that if 75% of the mineral interests want to lease the property, then they can execute a lease. The non-consenters, the people that decline to sign a lease or that cannot be located, have options provided for in law that in many cases they get to pick which of the leases binding on that property. If there's different language and different owners lease, then they're in a position to pick the best deal. And there are other protections that I won't get off in the weeds in a lot of details with this right now. And then we passed Senate Bill 360. It deals with old flat rate energy leases, and basically it provided some protection for royalty owners, and one particular oil company is so exercised by the passage of this bill that they have filed a lawsuit in the last couple of weeks in federal court seeking to have it declared unconstitutional. And so I guess we put that one on hold and wait for the federal courts to act. I got the yellow card, so that means I better sit down. Thank you. I enjoyed being here.
Thank you. The other candidate for District 8 is Democrat David Bland.
Good evening. My name is David Bland. I'm running for the House in the 8th District. I'm running for several reasons. Most of the reasons I'm running for, I'm just pretty pissed off at the way things have been running in our capital. It's, you know, we're an embarrassment, and yet we're proud at the same time. What the teachers did to stand up against injustice was some of the best things that's happened in West Virginia for a long time. I'm a 17-year union member, and, you know, I'd like to applaud some of the people that passed some of the laws that are hurting our state. You know, we're bringing in out-of-area workers. This was their intention, to lower wages, lower standards, bring in out-of-state workers. How is this supposed to help our state? We're going in reverse. We need new people in Charleston. It's a shame what's going on down there. You know, 4 years, it's been 4 years since the other party has taken over, and what I've seen is garbage. You know, hurt our state, hurt our people that live right here. You know, let's build another dollar store. We don't need no more dollar stores. Let's build some factories. Let's build some plants. Let's stop bringing in all these out-of-town construction companies to do our work, and it isn't over yet. Wait till what's going to happen up here in Williamstown with Crum School. With Crum, with the way it happened down at Crum School with SWO. You know, we're going to bring in all these out-of-country workers to build our schools. What a shame. I wouldn't allow it to happen on my watch. I've lived in West Virginia my entire life. My father was a union coal miner. My grandfather was a union steel worker. And my other grandfather was a union steel worker. You know, it's a shame today that the attack on the working class people, everything that's been going on has been negative to our state. So many times, I was down there when we was protesting the right to work, thousands and thousands and thousands of union members. And did they care? No. There was nobody down there saying right to work is right. Nobody. Out of state interest. It's the ones that said this. Didn't matter. They passed it anyways. Teachers go down there and do the same thing. Thank God for the West Virginia school teachers. So, I don't mean to be all negative, but I'm just kind of pissed off at the way our state's being ran, and that's why I'm running to make change. We got to move forward. You don't do away with safety. You don't do away with regulations to move forward. So, thank you.
Thank you. For District 9 in the House of Delegates, there are 2 candidates. District 9 includes Harwood County and All of Ward County and elects 1 representative for that district. The Democrat running is Jim Marion and the Republican is Ray Holland. We'll have Mr. Marion go next.
Hi, I'm Jim Marion. I'm running for the House of Delegates in the 9th District. Retired from UPS. I drove that brown delivery truck for 27 years. I'm a proud member of the Teamsters 175. That's why I always believe in union issues. Like Dave said, I went down there 2 years ago when they had the hearings before they voted on the right to work for less law, because that's what it is. They can cover it up all they want, but it's a right to work for less law. But in that hearing, I was hoping to be able to speak, but I wasn't one of the ones chosen. But there was 2 people from Michigan that got to speak in favor of right to work. Now after that, Ken Hall, who's the president of the Teamsters in West Virginia and the vice president of the National Teamsters Union, he got up and the first thing he said is, what are these people from Michigan doing coming in this state and trying to tell us how to run this state? That is one of the worst things we can have. We don't need people from out of state trying to tell us how to run this state. We have enough smart minds and enough smart people in this state to run it ourselves. We don't need out-of-state money trying to ruin this state. Now, in this past legislative session, like Bill said, they did the budget, and they did the budget in the regular session. One of the first times in years they got the budget done in the regular session. In past years, they've had to extend it 60 days and it cost $400,000 or $500,000 to get a budget done. That budget should always be done by the end of the regular session. That was good that they got it done. The bad about the session was the teachers. They should never have had to go out on walkout. The legislators are down there to represent the people. The teachers, the school service personnel, and state police are who they represent. They should have had them raises without them having to walk out. And just trying to give them a 1% wage increase was ridiculous. Now, they've got 5%, but it shouldn't end there. Every year, they need to get more until they get, I think I had in paper where they jumped from 50th up to 30th in the nation. We need to keep them going up in wages so we can retain good teachers. That is part of the reason of getting big business into this state. One of the things that big business asks for before they come in this state is education. Another thing is infrastructure. We're trying to get the roads fixed. Hopefully that'll get done. But, you know, when we have good roads, we keep teachers in this state, keep them from going to other states. It will improve the educational system, and I'll try to help in any way I can. I'm willing to listen to anybody, because I don't claim to know it all. There's some things I will vote for. Anything for the unions, I will vote for. But anything else, I'm willing to listen to anybody and get their opinions. And that is part of it too, is trying to listen to people. We need to listen to people and get their ideas. Like I said, I'm Jim Marion. I've lived in Mineral Wells for the last 35 years. I'm running for the House of Delegates, and I appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. The other candidate from District 9 is Ray Holland, who is a Republican.
Thank you, Kathy. And thank you for the opportunity to come and speak before the League of Women Voters and the Chamber of Commerce today. And again, my name is Ray Holland. I'm running for re-election for District 9. I live in Work County. I've been in Work County for 28 years. Just a little bit of history. State trooper for over 20 years, military for 25 years. So I've been in public service for 32 years, since I was 18, and I love serving the people. Some of the things I want to hit on my first 2 years down in the legislature as a delegate, we had an issue with the nursing home going in Work County. There was a law passed that a nonprofit could start the nursing home. When I got there, we found out that the funds through the clinic that's there couldn't use those funds to support the nursing home. So one of my goals and objectives the first session was to get that to where a private organization can take the nursing home over, so we can have a nursing home in Work County. Work County was one of the only 2 counties in West Virginia without their own nursing home. We had people traveling upwards to an hour and a half to see loved ones, and I just felt that that's wrong. So one of the things I worked hard on and was able to get passed on the very last day of the session 2 years ago, I think it's probably, I got it passed within 2 hours of session expiring, was able to reform the law to allow a private organization to take over the nursing home. And with all hope, it will be open sometime this year for Work County. Some of the things I worked on this year, along with last year, was tougher penalties for drug dealers. One of the pieces of legislation that I sponsored was, drug dealers that deal drugs that cause deaths. Well, there's no law in the books to charge them with murder by dealing illegal drugs. Unfortunately, we passed it. It wasn't signed into law last year, but we did increase some penalties for drug pushers. As we all know, our state is in desperate need of help when it comes to the drug crisis. Yes, the opioids are a big issue. They're on a decline. This year, I was the lead sponsor on the Health Committee for the Opioid Reduction Act for the House. The Senate had a similar bill. We decided to run the bill from the Senate side. We got that passed and signed into legislation to reduce the amount of opioids that's hitting the streets. And we've seen a decline in the opioids, and other things are taking place, but that's natural. That's what happens with illicit drugs. We will continue to fight this battle, because without a place to bring businesses, we won't attract business. You have to have a safe community for new businesses to want to open up in the communities. And that's what my objective is, to create the safest communities that we can have, to create the businesses. See, some of the other things that we worked on this year, I'm on the Judiciary Committee also. We worked on some more tort reform for lawsuit abuse, where there was out-of-state attorneys coming in, and the big thing is looking for nursing home slips and falls. They have no venue here, but yet they will come and do lawsuits against nursing homes and then take the money and leave. That's wrong. We should not allow that type of abuse from out-of-state attorneys for class action or just single lawsuits. Some of the other things that, job creation atmosphere. I'm sorry. I'll end with that. I'm sorry I missed the 30 seconds. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to take a quick break here to tell you, the League every year, those of you who have been here a while know that at election time we usually publish a voter's guide in the Parkersburg newspaper. And it was in yesterday's paper. If you didn't get the paper, you can check online at LWVWV, that's League of Women Voters of West Virginia.org, and it is posted there. in the fall. Be sure you buy the paper. We appreciate their publishing that for us. A couple of other things. Early voting starts in just a couple of days on Wednesday at the Judge Black Annex, and it starts in your community locations on Tuesday, May 1st. Both of those run through Saturday, May the 5th, right before the primary. Some people don't realize that you can vote at any of the early voting sites no matter where you live. So if you live out in the country and you work downtown, you can vote downtown. When you do go, you need to take some identification. I hope everybody knows that. I say just take your wallet and you will have something in there that will satisfy the ID requirements. If you are confused about any of that, the gentleman who holds the office of county clerk is sitting about halfway back here and would be happy to answer any questions. At least I think he'd be happy to. Would you be happy, Mark?
I'd be happy.
Okay. The remaining district that is going to send some delegates to the legislature is District 10. It is entirely within Wood County and is a 3-member district. So everybody gets to elect 3 people to that, or to vote for 3 people for that. There are 5 Republicans in the primary: Vernon Criss, Frank Dean, Matthew Dodrill, Jim Erlinson, and John Kelly. Frank Dean, as I think most of you probably know, had a fall some weeks back and is recuperating at home. His wife told me he's doing well, but not ready to be out and about yet. The other 4 Republicans are here. The 3 Democratic candidates are Andy Daniel, Harry Ditzler, and Morgan Leach. We're going to start with the Republican candidates, Mr. Criss.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you for being here this evening. I am Vernon Criss. I'm an incumbent. I was appointed to the legislature in 1987 by Governor Moore, re-elected under Gaston Caperton, and so I've served 3 years at that time and now 2 more years at this term. We have changed a lot of things in government to satisfy the needs of the people. Some of the services needed to be changed, primarily because we were doing things as if we were 30 years back. When I was there before, we set up the secretary system under Gaston Caperton. His opinion at that time is we had been serving government to the people like this since the early 50s. Well, now we're almost 60 years later, and we're still doing certain things with government as we did back in the 1950s. So we're taking the opportunity in the last 2 years to change some of that. One of the quirky things that happened that we didn't know until this year was how many automobiles do we own at state government? Well, one department, which insures the vehicles, said we had about 12,000 vehicles. And if you've been to the car lots lately, you know that an average price on an automobile is about $30,000. Well, you put the numbers to that, and that turns into about $360 million tax dollars involved in automobiles that the state owns. And we don't have an idea how many we own. Some time back, about 25 years ago, there was a senator that asked a very plain question to the finance people. How much money do we owe as a state? Nobody can answer. And now we do. We have an annual report that comes from the Treasurer's Office that tells us how many dollars we actually owe as a state. So hopefully here by end of next legislative session, we will be able to find out how many automobiles that we actually own. There are some silly stories out there about automobiles and about pickup trucks and things that have happened to some of the vehicles in this state. So I'm hoping that we'll have some answers for you by the next legislature session to give the people the answers they need. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next candidate, also a Republican, is Matthew Dodrill.
Hello, my name is Matthew Dahlgren. I was born here, I was raised here. I had the opportunity to travel around the world when I was young. I saw a lot of places that were bad, and I saw a lot of places that were good. Some places that we could improve on here, and some places that we're blessed to have here. My educational background is I have a few bachelor's degrees: business education, business technology, and business administration. A few things that I see in this area that we kind of squander a bit. A little bit of history. Who all knows about Disney? At one point in time, Disney actually looked to be here. Why? Because in an 8-hour drive, you can reach 80% of the eastern coast, the eastern side of the United States. We have rail, we have water, we have road, and we have a small airport, so we do have air too. We should be much more developed than what we are. We should have a major distribution area in this area. Why do we not? That is a good question. That's something that I would like to change. We need to develop in this area. One thing that has happened that unfortunately is the drugs did figure out that we are a major distribution area. We do have a problem with that. And rather than trying to figure out ways on our own on how to do things, other countries have already faced this crisis and beat it. We don't need to spend time researching ways on how to do things. Iceland has already conquered this. We could take notes from them, implement the ideas that they have done. They beat it. They educated the children. They educated the public. With our children. Many things have happened in this area, but we're still far behind. This past Christmas, a few of my cousins came back. They live in Texas. And with the cousins here, I got them talking about things that were happening in school. They talked about 3D printers, they talked about CNC machines, they talked about Arduinos, they talked about programming for their phones, for their iPhone, and for their Android. A few years back, I remember reading about a story about a child, 8 years old, programmed a little game on the Apple iPhone. Sold it to Apple. It sold for over 1 million copies. Now think about that. 8 years old, and you've sold over 1 million copies at 99 cents. About that, you're probably about an 8-year-old that's sitting on $600,000. What about a success story about that here? Do you hear about anything like that? I don't. I take my time and I volunteer down at the Boys and Girls Club. We've managed to get a Flux, which is a makerspace where we're introducing the kids into Arduinos and 3D printing and programming. We're teaching them about CAD. We're getting them to design about the future. We're getting them to think about things, how they can make better. Our veterans, we're constantly at a war, but we have soldiers coming back that are missing limbs. Rather than spending thousands and thousands of dollars on medical armaments, we can 3D print new ones. We can customize them to fit each one. We can teach humanities with our children. There's just so many things that could be done that we seem to be squandering away here. My personal family and what I do. My normal day job, I buy dilapidated properties in this area. And with that, I change them, we go in, rehab, and then we sell them to families who can't get conventional financing. With that, we've helped around 70 families go from misfortunes to fortunes. Thank you. My name is Matthew Dodrell, www.matthewdodrell.com. Please vote for me, May 8th.
Thank you. The next candidate is Republican Jim Erlandson.
Hello, my name is Jim Erlandson. I want to thank you for this opportunity to speak today. As a first-time candidate, certainly appreciate this forum to get my name out there and to tell a little bit about myself and my family. First off, I'd like to say that I'm a Christian. I apologize for that, and I believe that it's always right to do what's right, even if it's not modern, even if it's not popular. A little bit about myself and my family. Originally, I moved here for a job opportunity, and my wife and I, as soon as we come to Wood County, we realized it's a place that we would like to raise a family, we'd like to retire and just make our roots here. It's the first place we've ever lived where it felt like an actual community. So we wanted to do that. Unfortunately, about a year and a half later, the company I worked for closed down, and myself and about 20 other people lost their jobs. So we had a difficult decision to make at that time, whether we would return somewhere else and where we could get a job easily, or to fulfill a dream we had to start a small business. So we decided on the latter. Within a week, we opened Erlinson Glass LLC with only, we probably had $2,000 to our name, and just hit the ground running with a lot of determination. Just a few days ago, our business became 4 years old. We've seen some success, but we've also seen a little bit of difficulty. Some of the regulation we see through the state with wage bond requirements, with workers' comp, the high cost of workers' comp. These are costs that are associated with how many employees you have. The more you have, the more these costs go up. So it's kept us, and I'm sure many other businesses, from being able to create jobs and being able to hire more people. So that's something I'd like to work on in the legislature. I know there's been some improvements, but I'd like to see more. I'd like to talk just quickly about community. Our family's very connected in the community. We've adopted 5 children, and we're in the process of adopting the 6th child right now. One of our adoptions took, I think, over 4.5 years to complete. We see a lot of problems with our state's DHHR, the efficiency of it. We'd like to see that improve. We know that there's not nearly enough social workers. They're spread all over the state. There's over 6,000 kids in foster care right now. So it's a big task. I see a lot of problems with just the policy with foster kids and adoptive kids that need cleaned up, need either changed or removed. So I'd like to be part of that too. I do see the drug epidemic as the biggest issue our state faces right now. I have a lot of fresh ideas on how to deal with that currently and things that we should do for future generations to just break cycles and all that. And I'd like to say that I am pro-life. I believe that life is precious. I believe that life is worth fighting for. I'm also pro-Second Amendment. I'm endorsed by West Virginia CDL, and I'm thankful for that. I would just encourage everybody to research their candidates, find a candidate that cares about your interests, and be diligent in that, and not just take any of our words for that. And if you want more information about me, you can find that on Facebook by searching Jim for 10. That's JIMFOR10. Thank you.
Thank you. The next candidate will be Republican John Kelly.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being here. My name is John Kelly, and I'm a candidate for re-election to the West Virginia House of Delegates. This would be my 3rd term in the House, and before that I served the City of Parkersburg as a member of the Parkersburg City Council for 14 years. As a member of the Council, I served as President of the Council, Vice President of the Council, and Chairman of a number of committees. In the House, right now, I am a co-chairman of a joint committee on natural gas development. I joint chair that committee with Senator Ryan Fern from Ohio County. I also sit on the Energy Committee with Delegate Anderson. I am the vice chairman of that committee, and I have oil and gas responsibility there. I sit on the Education Committee, Veteran Affairs Committee, Homeland Security, and Senior Citizen Issues. So I'm not afraid to work down there, and I'm certainly not afraid to get up and do what I need to do in order to do that. Last year, as we got into the session, we continued to see this opioid crisis continue. And as bills continued, we saw a lot of bills that were introduced basically for the criminal and handle the criminal in various aspects, stiffer penalties, so on and so forth. And during that time, as we looked at that, there really wasn't anything being offered for those individuals who were the victims. the individuals that were addicted, both to opioids and also to alcohol. And I spoke with a few people, one of which is in this audience, about that crisis. And I introduced a bill last year. It was House Bill 2428, and it provided for additional treatment beds for in the state for drug and alcohol addiction. We got that bill funded with $22 million, and once we went through the process and got all the rules promulgated, this year that money was allocated for those programs, and I'm happy to say and happy to report that we were able to bring $4 million of that $20.8 million back here to Wood County. So we have money coming back into the county for opioid and alcohol treatment. As we worked through the Energy Committee this year, Delegate Anderson explained some of the bills that we passed, so I'm not going to bore you with going over those again. But those bills are job creators. We're working on getting pipelines in the ground. We're working on getting a storage hub for natural gas liquids somewhere in the Ohio Valley, and if we can do that, according to the experts, we will bring 100,000 new jobs into this area over the next 20 years. These are the core components that we need to bring industry back to West Virginia and back to Wood County and back to the Ohio Valley. So at that point, I will give you a couple of extra seconds. Again, my name is John Kelly. I am running for re-election to the House. I would appreciate your support, and thank you all so much for being here this evening.
Thank you. The three Democratic candidates are up next. The first will be Andy Daniel. I hope you're all impressed with my high-tech ID system here.
Oh, good. Now I know who I am. Hey, I'm Andy Daniel, running for House Delegates. A little bit about me. I'm born right here in Parkersburg, West Virginia, down at Camden Park. What they tell me, I don't remember a lot about it. Fuzzy night. About 38 years ago, went to junior high, Hamilton Junior High, went to PHS for high school. Went to Votech South, which kind of changed my life in a way. I went to, I'm stubborn growing up, still am. Grew up in a family of teachers, swore I was never going to college. So I went to Votech School at South and doing construction. From there I got in a apprenticeship, union carpenter apprenticeship, worked half a day at DuPont my senior year. I served that apprenticeship, got 4 years into it. In 2002, I topped out as a journeyman carpenter. In 2004, I decided I wasn't going to work for anybody else ever again, so I started 3D construction. I've since opened 3 additional companies since that period, so I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm an expert politician, because I'm not. I know how to run a business, I know how to start a business, I know how to get hard work done. There's a lot of issues on both sides of this aisle that I just don't agree with, but I'd love to talk about them forever. So, here again, I'm a business owner. I think there's a lot of opportunity right now, and you've heard guys talk about it tonight. I think West Virginia is going to boom over the next 5 to 10 years. I see it already. I see it in all my businesses. What worries me is making sure that we're still here when it leaves. You know, we got all the work in the coal industry for the years, and now the coal's not being used. We're replacing with natural gas, and we're still just broke. We've been broke the last 2 or 3 years, and we should have all kinds of money. So, I'd like an opportunity to go to Charleston and use the skills that I have to help this great state. And honestly, I just love for my kids to be able to stay here. I'm a father of 3 children, 2 stepkids. And I'd love for them to have an opportunity to stay here in West Virginia and with a good paying working job and be able to live here, not come back and with the promise of a job and have to start a company because that's what they had to do. So I'm not going to take a whole lot more of your time. If you want to know more about me, my website is www.whoisandy.org. It's pretty easy to get to. I'm also on Facebook. I'll be out here afterwards, so thanks.
Thank you. Next up is Harry Ditzler.
I'm Harry Ditzler. I was prosecuting attorney for 13 years here and president of the Prosecuting Attorneys Association. I understand the drug situation because we dealt with it every day when I was prosecuting attorney. And I can tell you right now, the biggest problem on the drug situation is that there isn't any funding at the state police for the analysis of the drugs. So when Jason was prosecutor, and now Pat's prosecutor, when they do an arrest, they can't get the drugs examined. They can't even have a trial for a year because the drugs aren't even examined. We also, since that time, we created a drug court, which has been very helpful in dealing with the help rehab and that sort of thing. After being prosecuting attorney, I had to find a job, a day job, and I became an attorney in private practice. In that process, I became president of the West Virginia State Bar, and so I think I had the ability to help people get along, because can you imagine, well, we have 5,000 lawyers in this state, and they all go different directions, and somehow I was able to get along with them. I'm not running against anybody. We've got 3 seats open. I'm just asking for one vote of the 3. I appreciate the public service of the 3 Democrats, or the 3 Republicans. Sorry, Vern, I didn't mean to hurt you. I appreciate the service of the Republicans that we have in there. I appreciate the Democrats that are running. I just want one of the votes. My job for you here in Wood County and for West Virginia is to try to solve problems and not create problems, to get along with people and not to fight with people. One of the things that I do think we need is a balanced budget in the state of West Virginia, and one way to do that, or not to do that, is to give away the severance tax. The reason that Arch Moore, you guys will remember, he got a $2,000 a year raise for the teachers. Now that's not 5%, that's 10% back then. And he did it by raising the severance tax on coal 4 times. If we are going to have a balanced budget, we can't cut the taxes on the out-of-state people that are coming in here and taking resources out. A severance tax on gas will solve the problem. It will ensure that, when in fact, when I was prosecuting attorney, we built Mountwood Park using a severance tax. Beyond that, in my personal life, I try to support the community. Since I have been blessed to have opportunities that I probably never deserved as an attorney, Kathy and I have given back. We formed a foundation, and here in Wood County alone, we have donated more than the amount of salary that I was paid in the 13 years that I was prosecuting attorney. We've donated to charitable interests here, to the schools and to other organizations. So I can promise you, I have the time to do it now. I'm not as old as you, John. I understand you made that clear. But I'm 67 years old. I will devote whatever time it takes, and I will work with the people in the Republican Party, the people in the Democrat Party, the governor. We have a gigantic aircraft carrier that we're steering through time here, and no one person can go down there and just scream and yell and make a change. For us to be successful, we have to go down there and work with one another, find common ground, and I'm realistic enough to know that all I can do is kind of help steer the ship a little bit. I'm not going to change the world. I'm going to try to make the world a better place. Thank you very much. My name is Harry Ditzler, and I appreciate one of your 3 votes if you're in the 10th district.
I think one's the limit. Per candidate after. The final candidate this evening is another Democrat, Morgan Leach.
Good evening, my name is Morgan Leach, running for House of Delegates here in District 10. I grew up in West Virginia. I grew up here in Wood County. I've got pretty deep roots here. My family's been here down in Leachtown, late 1700s. On my dad's mom's side, Henry Cooper had the cabin in City Park. So I'm very proud of my history and tradition here in West Virginia, Wood County. So I went to school here, and I went to law school at WVU, and I was one of the first rounds in a new Center for Energy and Sustainable Development put together by Provost Joyce McConnell. And I just gained an incredible education and in-depth learning into our natural resource economy and where our history has come
throughout that time, starting the state, timbering and mining coal, and looking towards the future, and what is it that we're going to do here in West Virginia to ensure that people in my generation, frankly, can stay here. I mean, a lot of my peer group has moved on and, taken opportunities in other states, moved to Vermont, Colorado, Texas, California, looking for other opportunities. And I ran first for House of Delegates in 2016, and I ran then on the same platform that I run on now, which is economic diversification. I think that if West Virginia is going to thrive and prosper through the future, I think we've got to start to diversify. And in my pursuit of diversification, I kind of went head on into agriculture, and I took this lesson from our state flag, which has a coal miner and a farmer. And I thought to myself, we've been doing a whole lot of one and not a whole lot of the other. And at the very same time when I'm searching for answers, 2014 Farm Bill, industrial hemp becomes a legal cash crop commodity for research, development, and marketing. And I thought, wow, what a great opportunity. This can make so many products. It's so versatile. It's a food that's rich in protein and omegas. It's a fiber that can make thousands of products, everything from textiles to paper to bioplastics, and it's sustainable. It doesn't take the herbicides and the pesticides that corn and soy and the other cash crops that might bring a farmer $30 to $50 on a good year per acre. We're looking at industrial hemp that could potentially bring $1,000 per acre. Think about the difference that can make for diversifying our economy in West Virginia. Take $1,000 an acre and put that profit into a farmer's pocket. You know where they're going to spend that money? They're going to spend it in their community, and they're going to spend it where it counts. You know what they're going to need? They're going to need more hands on the farm. They're going to hire people locally that might otherwise be, wasting their time with idle hands and end up in trouble or addicted to drugs or whatever it may be. So that's, really what I've committed my career to be, and I've been doing this for 6 years now, working exclusively with industrial hemp. And I'll tell you, it's hard to start a brand new industry, and especially one that is coming out of 70 years of prohibition and having the negative connotation, the stigma, etc. And so the public education campaign that we've run for so long, I think is really starting to come to a head and really starting to take shape in West Virginia. And I certainly thank the West Virginia Legislature and the delegates here for supporting the Industrial Hemp Act, for the amendments that we put through to improve the program. And so with that, again, I'm Morgan Leach. I'm running for House of Delegates, District 10, on a platform to diversify our economy. Thank you.
Thank you. That completes our list of candidates, and it's a little earlier than I thought it would be. So I hope you all can hang around and talk to each other in the lobby. With this not a huge audience, you should be able to talk to whoever you want to. Thank you, candidates. We all know that public office is not an easy thing. Running for it is not always a pleasant experience. And I, for one, admire your being willing to undertake that task. Audience, you've been very well behaved. You can now give the candidates all one round of applause.